Okay, let me just read a couple of things here. This was filed on Monday, and it urges Judge Chutkan to sweep aside all of Trump's efforts to sanitize his conduct. This was written by Assistant Special Counsel James Pierce. He wrote, "The defendant attempts to rewrite the indictment, claiming that it charges him with wholly innocuous, perhaps even admirable conduct, sharing his opinions about election fraud and seeking election integrity, when in fact it clearly describes the defendant's fraudulent use of knowingly false statements as weapons in furtherance of his criminal plan." And it lays out, all of, the fact that, the indictment is full of Trump's claims of election fraud as knowing lies. So that, it's not just whether the election was stolen, but the specific lies that it goes through. Prosecutors are now also, it's interesting, they're also signaling they're paying attention to what he's doing in real time. Prosecutors will use his pardon promises. They will use his decision to record the Star-Spangled Banner with the January 6th inmates and the false slates of presidential electors as evidence. Here's more from Pierce. "The defendant stands alone in American history for his alleged crimes. No other president has engaged in conspiracy and construction to overturn valid election results and illegitimately retain power." See, that's what I found so powerful about how clear this is, and brushing aside the everyone does it, I was just expressing my opinion. And as a non-lawyer, I thought it was very interesting, the analogy they used, saying, if there's a business executive who subjectively believes that his company is going to succeed, right, believes that his company is going to be profitable, that does not give him or her license then to engage in fraud and to use knowingly false statements out there, even though their intent may be based on their subjective belief. So they explain it in ways that I think that the American public can understand, if the American public is paying any attention.
Right. So there's a Trump's strategic objective, or rather Trump's lawyer's strategic objective in these briefs, is to zoom out to a level of altitude where you can say, well, he was just giving a speech. He was just, and presidents give speeches all the time.
Right.
Or he was just calling state officials to express his opinion, and presidents do that all the time.
Right.
And and so and no specific words that he said constitute an incitement within the meaning of incitement law. And the job of the prosecutor is always here to remind, I'm going to put it in a bit different language, that the same words can be criminal or First Amendment protected entirely depending on context. So if I say to you, Charlie, that's a nice house, it would be a shame if something happened to it. If I'm Don Corleone, that is a threat, right? A true threat. If I'm an insurance salesman trying to sell you a policy, an insurance policy, that's a perfectly valid and constitutionally protected, right? If I say to you, Charlie, I have a bridge to sell you, please transfer the entire contents of your bank account to mine, and I am trying to defraud you of your account, of your money, that is a crime. We're in different states, so we're communicating by wire here. That would be classic wire fraud. On the other hand, if I'm a comedian, saying, well, if you believe that, transfer me all your money, I've got a bridge to sell you. It might not be a good joke, but it's clearly constitutionally protected. And so the job of the prosecutors here is constantly to keep the courts and the public focused on the meaning and purpose of what he was trying to do and the voluminous evidence of that, rather than on what are the specific words that he spoke, and have other presidents said something like that at
Right,
some other time in some
No,
other context?
that's important to keep in mind. Again, so speaking of the nesting doll of lies, I really liked, for example, the way they just sort of went through it and say, whatever you believe about whether the election was rigged, it doesn't change the fact that these statements, and they list them, one after another, are completely are lies, and you knew
Timothy
they were lies.
McVeigh
So yeah,
McVeigh earnestly believed
yeah.
that the federal government had murdered innocent women and children at Waco, and it
Yeah.
was all because of the Jews, and the people. That doesn't mean
Right.
it's not murder
No.
when you blow up a federal building.
So look at these things. There's like 5 or 6 of them. The claim that 36,000 non-citizens had voted in Arizona. Donald Trump said it. No, it's a total lie. That more than 10,300 dead people had voted in Georgia. Total lie. That there had been an illicit dump of more than 100,000 ballots in Detroit. Totally false. That there had been 205,000 more votes than voters in Pennsylvania. Now, by the way, the prosecutor has and the January 6th committee has specific tape and testimony of people who say, this came up and I told him this was not true. Bill Barr, his own attorney general, told him this was not true about Pennsylvania, for example, in Georgia. That there had been tens of thousands of unlawful votes in Wisconsin. No evidence whatsoever. That voting machines in various contested states had switched votes from the defendant to Biden. This is the Dominion lawsuit, which, to say that there's a lot of evidence showing that all of those allegations about Dominion were bullshit, it has been pretty well established, and it cost Fox News $787 million. So, this is what they're honing into, is that, Trump wants to litigate whether his belief about the overall election is somehow constitutionally protected free speech, as you point out, but that does not provide cover for these very clearly palpable and provably false statements that he made as part of his effort to overturn the election.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Ben, one last comment before I ask you the most important question of the day. Eileen Cannon, down in Florida, ruled today that she's not delaying the trial, but she's going to be hearing motions in March. Give me your sense of what she is doing, because she seems to be dragging her feet. And then I think a lot of the observers are just sort of assuming that Eileen Cannon is just going to punt this thing after the election as Trump wants. What do you think?
So, I think there's a huge amount of reason to be suspicious of Eileen Cannon. She is not, on one very public issue, she was not a straight shooter. And she's, I think there are a lot of reasons to be suspicious of her handling of this case so far. That said, I think this decision is the right decision, which is to say, if the DC case is really going to trial on March 5th, which Judge Chutkan wants it to, the government really wants it to, and it seems on track to do, then it is implausible that she can actually hold the trial in May in Florida. Because the trial in Washington is going to take some serious time. And so I think keeping the date on the books for now and saying, look, we're going to try to be prepared to go to trial. I believe it's May 25th. I forget what the exact date, but sometime in May, we're going to try to be prepared to do that. But we're going to hear motions at the time of, to delay if that's appropriate, in connection. We're going to keep our eye on Washington. I think that's sort of the only thing she can do here. The problem that we're going to have with Eileen Cannon is that she is really dragging her feet on the classified information litigation. And so there's a huge amount of classified discovery in this case, and she is not moving with alacrity to resolve classification issues. And that's going to end up forcing her, if she doesn't speed up and get a fire lit under her butt, that's going to force her at the end of the day to postpone the case, which may be what she wants anyway. So I think this was a pretty reasonable disposition of this issue, but I'm still very suspicious of the way she's handling the matter.
I think that sounds about right. Okay, so trigger warning for those of you that just want to obsess about Trump's trials. You can move on now, because we're going to move on to.
Well, we're going to flood the zone with.
We are going to flood the zone with. We really are. You know, for people who know that Ben has a daily newsletter, the Dog Shirt Daily, which this week was changed to the Dog Daily because there was an incident and there's an issue involving the disposal of, shall we say, dog waste in the District of Columbia. What is neighborly? What is not neighborly? So, Mr. Wittes, we need to have a poll. I know you're running a poll. We'll get to the poll results later. Who do you agree with? Ben Wittes, his neighborhood Karen, the throwing woman. So, Ben, tell me the story.
All right, I'll tell you what happened.
Brief. Tell me what happened in your own words, Ben.
Yeah, so what happened was I unknowingly violated D.C. city ordinance. I have always thought that
No. We don't get to the ordinance. I just want to know what happened. Tell me the facts. I want to get to the facts, Mr. Wittes.
I was taking my dogs for a walk.
Okay.
One of them did his business in an alley where we often walk.
Canine defecation.
Yes.
An act of canine defecation. Okay.
And I picked it up. And I deposited the bag.
In what? I'm sorry, Mr. Wittes. Be more specific.
In a poop bag.
A poop bag. Green poop bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Green poop bag. I tied it off.
Okay.
And I put it in a trash barrel that I was walking by. You know, in D.C., a lot of alleys have, there where people have their trash barrels where the trash truck comes. And so I put it in and I went off listening to Yasha Monk's new book as I walked with my dogs, and a woman came charging out.
Is your claim, by the way, that you were distracted by Yasha Monk's book?
Well, look, no. I do that every day. No. My defense is simply
blaming Yasha
that
Monk. Okay.
I mean, most things are Yasha Monk's fault,
well, I know.
But no, Yasha, it was really more the relevance of Yasha Monk's book was really that I didn't notice that I was aware that a woman was shouting. I didn't really notice that she was shouting at me because I was listening to Yasha talk about Foucault. And, okay. And so I was like thinking about Yasha and Foucault, and
woman is yelling at you about dog while you are listening to a discussion of Foucault. Okay.
Exactly. And so all of a sudden, it penetrates my head that she's yelling at me because I hear her yell, "Other people's garbage." And I turn around over my left shoulder, and there's this woman halfway down the block with a poop bag of dog shit that she's apparently, well, I assume so.
Okay.
That she's fished out of, I think, her trash barrel, which I had put it in, and she hurls it at me. And,
she doesn't have the bag of dog shit at you.
Yes, dogs. When I say flood the zone,
did she say words that sounded like Foucault?
No, she said, take it to the park and dispose of it in a public barrel. And she throws it at me and then storms off back into her yard. And I am left, with like half a block between us and a bag of dog shit in between, thinking, well, first of all of these garbage cans are kind of public property. They're the city's garbage cans.
So this is the legal question is, did you have, under DC law, the right to place this dog bag in her?
The answer is no. I later looked it up under on DC law is on her side. The DC government calls my conduct illegal and unneighborly. It even makes a moral judgment about it. So I stand condemned in the eyes of the DC government. And yet I sort of think the Karen was more the asshole here than I was. I was, after all, throwing trash in a trash can, and she was throwing dog shit at a stranger. But okay, I acknowledge I was in the wrong legally, and I came back and I wrote it up.
The law sides with the woman hurling shit at you.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
right.
at least as to my conduct,
Okay,
I don't
okay,
know
right,
if the law has anything to say about throwing dog shit at people. I think that may be an assault. So I put up a poll on Dog Shirt Daily under the headline Dog Shit Daily.
Yeah.
Who's the asshole in this story? And I want to just announce the results.
Well, I'm sorry, no, what are the choices before we...
So Wittes is the asshole. The Karen is the asshole. The Karen is mostly the asshole. Wittes is mostly the asshole. Both are equally assholes are your options.
Okay.
So
the results.
The results, do you want the results in the form most favorable to Wittes or least favorable to Wittes?
You choose.
All right, I'm going to do both.
It's your shitty poll.
I'll do both.
Okay.
So if you are friendly to Wittes, you will notice in this poll, this poll is like a Rorschach test.
Yes.
Only 8% said I was the asshole.
Okay, good.
As opposed
now, these are your readers, right? These are your people.
Yeah,
okay, so it's a little bit skewed, right?
Not a random sample.
Yeah, these are people that actually subscribe to your newsletter who read you every day. Okay,
I don't think the Karen wrote it up in her newsletter, but the Karen is the asshole got 20%. Okay, so I beat her by 12%, right? Okay. So on the mostly the asshole, I got 12%, and the Karen got 35%, and the equal assholes were 25%. So it's really quite a bell curvy spread. Okay. Yeah. So, but here's the bad news for you if you're friendly to Wittes. So this is as you point out, a readership that can be expected to be disproportionately friendly to Wittes. And if you sum up the I am the asshole, the Wittes is the asshole, the Wittes is mostly the asshole, that's 20%. And the both are equally the assholes, that's 25%. So if you sum up the group that says I am at least as much to fault as the Karen, that is 45%, which is suspiciously like Joe Biden's approval numbers, I just want to point out. And so a huge percentage of the audience, 45% of my audience thinks I'm at least as much of
I am thinking that a large portion of those people are not dog owners or do not walk dogs, because this seems very harsh. It seems very judgmental from folks that do not understand the difficulty of dealing with dogs and dealing with those green poop bags. I mean, if you've actually dealt with the green poop bags, I think you're going to be a little kinder and gentler in your analysis of your behavior.
To me, it's not even like, I understand that people have strong feelings about this. And now that I know that DC law is on the Karen side, I will carry starting yesterday, have been carrying the poop bags to my can or to some public can. Fine, whatever. It's not the biggest problem in the world. I gotta say, getting mad at people for throwing garbage in garbage cans, because it's not like, some of the ones in our neighborhood smell great and some smell bad. It strikes me as a ridiculous thing to get upset about. And however upset you are, throwing dog at your neighbors seems like an overreaction to me. But I accept that 45% of my readers hold me at least 50% accountable for this. And I will only just say, my revenge against that 45% will be swift and terrible.
And we will all await it. Ben?
We're gonna assign the Justice Department to it. I'm gonna run for president so that I am your retribution.
Ben, thank you for the analysis and for the sharing. I appreciate it very much.
We will be back next week with or without dog, and we will do this all over again.
And if there's any fallout, if you ever run into the Karen again, make sure you let us know, will you, please?
Oh, I'm never walking by her house without a camera again.
I am thinking that I wonder if Karen has a newsletter and whether she put up an online poll on this, what the results would be.
I suspect she does not and did not, because I gotta say, as humbled as I am to find out that my activity is illegal and unneighborly according to my government, I suspect if she had to describe her behavior, she would be more embarrassed than I.
Yeah. See, I'm just guessing that given your neighborhood and stuff that, it's possible she'll turn out to be like an assistant secretary of state or something like that. Right.
It is possible.
This could have been a federal judge. You just never know. Ben, thanks so much. Thank everybody for listening to this weekend's Bulwark podcast. I'm Charlie Sykes. We will be back on Monday, and we'll do something like this all over again.